All right. Like you mentioned, Garrett, at the beginning of the show, we've got kind of 3 dinosaurs of the day. Earl Sinclair, Godzilla, and Cryptids. That's why I say kind of.
Cryptids has multiple.
Yeah. I'm going to start with Earl Sinclair. This was a request from Marcus via our Patreon and Discord, so thanks. This request actually came out, I think it was right after we recorded last year's April Fool's episode.
Wow, you've been keeping track of it that whole time.
Yes, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss out on any requests.
Plus, we like the show Dinosaurs.
Yes, because Earl Sinclair is a megalosaurus Muppet from the TV show Dinosaurs, and that show's from the 90s.
Is he technically a Muppet?
I think so. Well, because somebody wore him in a suit.
Yeah, I guess Big Bird's a Muppet.
Yeah.
So why not Earl Sinclair?
And it's from the Jim Henson studio.
Yeah.
So he is 43 years old, married to Fran, and has 3 kids, Robbie, Charlene, and Baby. But only Earl and Baby are Megalosaurus for some reason.
Yep, that's weird.
Mm-hmm. His full name is Earl Sneed Sinclair, which Fran calls him that when she's trying to make a point with him. He pushes trees for the We Say So Corporation, but in his free time, he likes to watch TV.
So that's about it. And eat.
Yeah. So he's pretty human-like.
Yep.
In that way. Baby Sinclair calls him not the mama, often hits him with a frying pan. It's probably one of the more famous lines from the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the puppet side, one person wore a full-bodied suit while another person operated facial radio controls, and then the voice was by Stuart Pankin. And Baby Sinclair was kind of a hand puppet, but the eyes and the arms were operated separately.
Yeah, and I think he was based on, like, a lot of male characters in different sitcoms, like The Honeymooners and things like that, where it's sort of like lazy, grumpy guy.
Right. He wasn't too based on Megalosaurus, the dinosaur.
No. And it is crazy that they're all different genera of dinosaurs, because the definition of a species is that you can mate and have viable offspring. They're not even separate species within a genus. They're like totally all over the dinosaur family tree. And they're supposed to be like biological children. Very weird.
Well, you don't think about it too much.
Yeah. It wouldn't have been as exciting on TV if they were all the same species, I guess.
Yeah, the stories you could tell would be more limited.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that show.
It's so good.
Well, next we've got Godzilla. This was a request from Tyrant King via our Patreon and Discord, so thank you. And Godzilla is a kaiju. Kaiju means strange beast in Japanese. So Godzilla is a fictional monster. The 1954 movie Godzilla is often considered to be the first kaiju movie. And that movie was inspired partly by the 1933 movie King Kong.
Oh, I never knew that. Or maybe you already told me, but I didn't remember it.
It sounded new to me when I was researching. Now, Godzilla's appeared in 38 films, as well as a bunch of comics, video games, and other media. It's unclear exactly how Godzilla got its name. It was Gojira. And then there's stories that it was named after a sturdy man that the producer jokingly called Gojira, and then later Gojira. And that's a portmanteau of the Japanese words gorira, which means gorilla, and Kujira, which means whale. Because apparently he was sturdy like a gorilla and he liked eating whale meat. But this might just be a tall tale.
I thought it was just going to be that he was sturdy like a gorilla, but big like a whale. Not that he liked eating whale meat.
Yes, well, we don't know for sure if that's the real story behind it, but we do know that the name started as Gojira and then got translated to Godzilla for overseas distribution. And Godzilla is this prehistoric sea monster that's awakened and empowered by nuclear radiation. Godzilla's amphibious and reptile. It looks somewhat like a dinosaur, stands on 2 legs, has scaly skin, bony plates on the back and tail, muscular arms. Godzilla is very much a chimera. There's features from Tyrannosaurus, Iguanodon, Stegosaurus, and an alligator.
Yeah, I always see Tyrannosaurus and Stegosaurus when I look at it.
Me too. I think it's the plates.
Is the Iguanodon maybe the arms?
Maybe, although the fingers don't match up, I think. The number of fingers.
I don't know what it's Iguanodon like about it, but must be something.
But it's got sharp teeth and forward-facing eyes like a carnivore, a short neck, long arms. Maybe that's it, the long arms. And it's got 4 fingers on each hand. Iguanodon had 5. The skin texture was inspired by the scars seen on survivors of Hiroshima, which emphasizes its Godzilla's relationship with the atomic bomb. Godzilla does change a bit in appearance, like how in later movies it's got fewer toes and no ears or fangs, but then those features actually come back in more recent films.
Yeah. Yeah, they made it more dinosaur-like, I would say, for a while, and then it returned to its more amalgamation.
Yeah. And its size changes from movie to movie. I think the biggest one is in the 2017 movie Godzilla Planet of the Monsters, where it's supposed to be 984 feet tall or 300 meters.
It's tall.
Very tall. It's also got special powers like atomic breath, and it's been depicted in many ways: animatronics, CGI, stop motion. Although the first way was an actor wearing a very heavy latex costume. That first suit weighed over 220 pounds or 100 kilograms, and there were thin wires and bamboo wrapped in chicken wire for support.
Oof.
And it sounded very difficult to wear.
I could not wear that, I don't think. I prefer my inflatable dinosaur costumes
Yes.
that weigh like 1 pound.
Even those you can get really sweaty in.
You can, but it's nice because it's got the airflow going.
Mm,
I think you're thinking of when you were dancing in them, which, yeah, will
yeah,
make you sweaty.
it would. And did. All right. Well, that's Godzilla. And then also fitting for this episode from Tyrant King, who said that a fun idea for April Fools would be an episode dedicated to various worldwide cryptids thought to be dinosaurs or other Mesozoic creatures. So I got into that a little bit. So cryptozoology, which is not mainstream science,
One might say it's pseudoscience.
yes, according to the Merriam-Webster definition, it's, quote, the study of and search for animals, and especially legendary animals, such as Sasquatch, usually in order to evaluate the possibility of their existence, end quote.
Like going on a snipe hunt.
Yes. Now, one of the people who made cryptozoology popular was Bernard Heuvelman, who lived from 1916 to 2001, and he wrote a book in 1958 called On the Track of Unknown Animals that was really influential. Cryptozoology means the science of hidden animals. And Bernard was known for making overstated claims, according to one science writer.
I would say so.
And one of the most famous cryptids is the Loch Ness Monster, or Nessie. And we could spend a lot of time on Nessie. I'm pretty sure there's podcasts out there that cover her in depth.
It's a she,
Well,
depending who you ask.
I think How I Met Your Mother makes me think of her as a she.
There's a thing in How I Met Your Mother on Nessie.
Marshall loves Nessie.
Oh.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Now, in Scottish folklore, Nessie is said to live in Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands, which is a large freshwater lake.
Yeah, loch is Scottish for lake.
Yes. And Nessie's been described as having sleek skin, being about 20 feet long, and looking like a sea serpent, but with some humps and then paddles. The head's been described as like a horse's in shape, but it's also had a head described as having a small rounded turtle shape. The body and head are kind of like a plesiosaur's, if you go with the turtle-shaped head, with the small head, the long neck, and 4 long flippers. That's what plesiosaurs look like. And some plesiosaurs did probably live in fresh water. Nessie got popular in the 1930s, although the Loch Ness Monster has been mentioned as early as the 7th century. And it's described as a monster fish or sea serpent or dragon.
That's quite a breadth of animals.
Yes. In 1934, Robert Kenneth Wilson allegedly took a photo of Nessie. This is called the surgeon's photograph. He was a gynecologist. Although now that photo is considered to be a hoax. It was created with a toy submarine and a fake body. Now, as for why Nessie looks like a plesiosaur, well, there's an interesting post by Darren Naish on the Biologist Royal Society of Biology about how cryptozoology can tell us a lot about how humans see nature. And Naish also has a lot of posts on his Tetsu blog about cryptozoology if you want to dive in more. Now, in this post, he talks about how cryptids are cultural memes and how what they look like and how they supposedly exist follows trends in pop culture. So, one example is the Mokele Membe, which is a water monster from the Congo River Basin that's been described as sauropod looking. As a side note, we had a bonus episode from the podcast Skeptoid that talks about Mokele Mbembe, so I didn't want to get too much into this one. But Naish wrote that the sauropod-looking version of this water monster came out in the early 1900s when sauropod skeletons were being mounted in museums around the world. And Mokele membe, which is seen as living in swamps and amphibious, seems to look and behave the way that we thought sauropods looked and behaved in the early 1900s.
Yep. It's just like how UFOs always look like whatever the latest sci-fi version of a UFO looks like.
Oh, I never thought about that. Well, I'm not totally sure why Nessie is so plesiosaur-like, but it could be because plesiosaurs have been found on every continent.
Yeah, plesiosaurs were well known in the UK by the 1930s. And it was interesting to me when you were saying that it was known about as long as the 7th century. I was thinking, oh, that's way before plesiosaurs. But then you said, but they used to think, sometimes it was a giant fish or a dragon. And that fits more with what you might expect in a much older legend.
Yes.
So it changes over time. And just for the record, Nessie is not real. The lake has been extensively scanned with sonar and other equipment and hasn't found any animal approaching the size of a plesiosaur or a giant fish or dragon. The final nail in the coffin was in 2019 when a group took environmental DNA from the loch.
Or the lake.
Yeah, or the lake. Environmental DNA, also known as eDNA, refers to taking samples from the environment and then figuring out which animals are in the ecosystem based on the genetic material they leave around,
Oh, interesting.
which is in the sample. It's a really powerful tool for conservation and all sorts of research you can do in the wild.
And not something we talk about much with dinosaurs.
No, because there's no DNA, well, not enough to use a polymerase chain reaction and figure out which animals were in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
But all animals are constantly shedding genetic material all around us. And eDNA is so powerful that a study recently accidentally found that they could identify many specific individual people who had been in an area.
Oh, wow.
So then in that eDNA community, they started to raise privacy concerns like, how are we going to make sure that we're not accidentally publishing somebody's DNA in this research or, sharing where people have gone because they were basically trying to research the health of an ecosystem, but they got a bunch of human data with it.
Wow.
And there are laws about human privacy. So even when you're not trying to get something in the eDNA, you often get it because it is very powerful.
That is powerful. Wow.
Yeah. So the eDNA study of Loch Ness did not find any plesiosaur material in it. And you might say testing a lake is one of the ideal places to do eDNA because with water, it gets all mixed up. So you can take a sample of the water and get a really good sample of what's living in that water.
Because it's all randomized.
Yeah, and it just mixes well, right? Whereas if you're going out and you're getting a little bit of dirt, it's possible that an animal might not have passed through there if it's really rare, and you might not get a sample of it. But not only did they not find any plesiosaur DNA there, they didn't find any reptile DNA whatsoever in the lake. They did find over 3,000 species, though. It includes bacteria, fish, birds, deer, pigs, and of course humans. The most likely group, though, from the eDNA sample may have been eels. There are a lot of eels in the lake, it turns out.
Oh, and they have a kind of a plesiosaur-like body. At least they're long.
Kind of, yeah. So maybe some Nessie sightings are overgrown eels. It's possible. Or it could just all be pareidolia and legends over the years. Pareidolia is a phenomenon where we tend to see familiar or meaningful images from patterns or ambiguous photos. Like you can look at a random fuzzy texture and see a face in it, or you can look at the sky and the clouds and you'll see all sorts of shapes in the clouds.
Yeah, I see dinosaurs everywhere, especially sauropods.
Yeah.
Like in wall patterns.
Yep. So if you think that there's a monster in a lake and you're staring at it or you're looking at it at night or looking off into the distance, there's a good chance you'll see something that looks like a monster to you. And sometimes you might think it's a giant fish and sometimes you might think it's a dragon, whatever's on your mind in your subconscious or even conscious.
Interesting. Good term to know.
Pareidolia is a good one.
Well, we won't get into too many cryptids here because this episode has already gotten fairly long, what with all the birds. But one more dinosaurian-like one is the Arica monster, which is often depicted looking like a dromaeosaurid or raptor, although sometimes it's described as looking like an early kangaroo. So it's been described as walking on two legs, having sharp teeth, and having three-toed footprints. It was allegedly first spotted in 1980 and then spotted a few more times in 2004 in the Atacama Desert of Chile in South America. And Arica is the province in northern Chile where the Atacama Desert's located. There's also a city called Arica. So the Atacama Desert is the driest non-polar desert in the world, and it's the largest fog desert in the world, which also sounds like an April Fool's thing. The fog gives the animals and plants enough moisture. What makes it a fog desert is it's got these lomas or fog oases where fog condenses against mountain slopes near the sea. Although there are still some parts of the desert that are too dry for any plants or animals. A lot of birds live in this desert, like the Humboldt penguins and Andean flamingos. Those are the ones that parade
Oh,
and
yeah.
inspired our Parasaurolophus parade.
It kind of makes sense because there aren't that many animals that can cover a lot of distance for inhospitable terrain. But if
Mhm.
anything can, a bird can.
Yeah. I mean, there are other animals. I just pointed out the birds because, April fowls and all. Parts of the desert look like a dusty, rocky landscapes, so it's been used to film Mars scenes like in the TV series from 2004, Space Odyssey Voyage to the Planets. No dromaeosaurids have been found in Chile yet, because you never know. So maybe there's a strange bird that hasn't been named yet that people are seeing.
Could be.
Could be. As for fossils, there's some interesting finds in formations in the Atacama Desert. There's the sauropod, Atacama titan, which was found in the Tolar Formation. It's a late Cretaceous titanosaur estimated to weigh between 8 and 16 tons. There's also an unnamed pterosaur found in the Cerro Campamento Formation in the Atacama Desert. This pterosaur lived in the late Jurassic. It had a long tail, a long snout, and it's part of a group that's estimated to have wingspans of up to 6.6 feet or 2 meters long. So pretty big. Although neither of those look raptor-like. But then not too far away in Argentina, there's Silosuchus, an archosaur that lived in the late Triassic, and it looks dinosaur-like. It walked on 2 legs, it had short arms, a long tail, a relatively long neck, and it had some light armor, and its closest modern relatives are crocodilians.
Sort of like a 2-legged, more upright walking crocodilian.
I thought you were going to say Godzilla.
No.
And then there's Forus racos, which is a terror bird found in Argentina that lived in the Miocene. The Miocene was about 23 to 5 million years ago, and it had 2 strong legs. It was almost 8 feet tall, or 2.4 meters, and it weighed almost 290 pounds, or 130 kilograms. And being a terror bird, it had a large skull that was 26 inches, or 65 centimeters long. It had stubby wings, it couldn't fly, and a long neck to go with its large head that had a hooked beak. And it also had 3 toes on its feet.
That'd be really cool if there was a terror bird somewhere.
Oh, yes.
I don't think there is, but it would be cool.
It would be cool. There is a satirical conspiracy theory known as the Acre Conspiracy. I want to thank our listener ACD for sharing this one with us. And Acre is a state in Brazil. It's relatively small. It's way out west. It's on the border with Peru and Bolivia. It's sparsely populated. Its largest city and the capital is Rio Branco with over 335,000 people, but other cities have 15 or 16,000 people. And it's mostly covered by the Amazon rainforest, and it's pretty hard to get to. So there's a joke that Acre either doesn't exist or that only dinosaurs live there. And people from the state have embraced the joke. Back in 2018, one man started making videos of himself doing challenges in an inflatable T-Rex costume, like rowing a boat or shopping.
Yes, they're basically saying we are all dinosaurs here.
Yeah, or yes, there are dinosaurs. As an interesting aside, Indiana University Bloomington had a blog post from 2020 that talked about 7 species that used to be cryptids. So who knows, maybe we'll find a really weird bird that fits the Arica monster description someday.
Maybe. Probably not, but maybe.
I won't get into all of the species from this blog post, but 2 of them include the Komodo dragon, which apparently it wasn't until 1910 when Lieutenant Stein van Hansbroek caught and killed one that people saw that Komodo dragons existed. And then W. Douglas Burgin went to the island of Komodo in Indonesia and captured a couple live Komodo dragons, which went on display at the Bronx Zoo and apparently inspired Marion Cooper to write the 1933 movie King Kong. All these connections to King Kong and Godzilla.
So without Komodo dragons being brought to the Bronx Zoo, you wouldn't have Godzilla? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe. I guess you could say that, yeah. And then another species that used to be a cryptid is the kangaroo.
It is super weird.
Yeah. So the first description of a kangaroo was in 1499 by Amerigo Vespucci, who said, according to the blog post, it was a, quote, monstrous beast with the head of a fox, the hands of a man, the tail of a monkey, and a bag that it used to carry its young.
A bag. That's fantastic. Makes it sound like it's got a shopping bag, but
Yeah.
it's like a pouch.
Yes. So yeah, that does sound very strange.
Yeah.
There was one kangaroo captured in 1629, but it died on its voyage. So it wasn't until Sir Joseph Banks rediscovered the kangaroo on Captain Cook's voyage in 1770 that it became more widely accepted.
At least widely accepted by Europeans, I suppose.
Yes, yes. But isn't that strange? That reminds me of our April Fool's episode on the dodo.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, I guess it wasn't in their list, but that was another one where people didn't believe it actually existed.
Yes, but then people didn't believe it went extinct either.
Yeah. Which is how some of these cryptids are, right? With Nessie, people saying that maybe plesiosaur didn't go extinct.
So yeah, cryptozoology is interesting.
I think for a lot of people, it's just sort of a fun thought experiment more than anything.
If you want to hear more about the origins of dinosaur cryptozoology, I recommend checking out our interview with Edward Guimont in episode 361.